What's up, guys? Welcome back to this channel. This is Soul Sessions with Final Appeal and Humbled. And it's been a while, but we are back now. And in today's video, we're going to talk about something very interesting. Everything has a beginning in general, and that's what we'd like to talk about. However, specifically, we'll talk about beginnings in as far as our faith is concerned. That's one. And two, we're going to talk about beginnings in as far as creation and general things that we see is concerned. So we hope you will find this very helpful. Before we even jump into the video, I'd like to remind you to subscribe. If you have not, iko hapa chini. You can hit that red subscribe button. Turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any other video that we will be posting. It's going to be a very interesting year on this channel, and we hope that you can join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so beginnings, and I want us to put this all into perspective. So maybe David, you can give us something to think about or to ponder.
I think just like I was saying just before, everything generally has a beginning. For example, for me to be here, I have parents. Most of you guys and you guys watching online have probably never seen my parents, but you believe that I have parents. You know, first of all, I'm not Adam, so I definitely have parents. If you know what I mean. And for example, even this shirt I'm wearing, for instance, it was not a shirt initially. Yeah, it was something else before it was a shirt. And that's what we are driving at in today's video. Everything has a beginning. Ndio nivae socks. Kuna mtu alifanya kazi kwa factory, and before that those socks are probably cotton or something before hand, so that it comes to being a sock today. So everything has a beginning. For this mic to be here, ilitengenezwa, haikuzaliwa. If you know what I mean. So everything has a beginning. And I think it's really important to think about things like that.
All right.
Ukiona kitu, do you ever think about ikitu ilitoka wapi?
How it all began, eh?
How did it begin? Yeah.
In short, we can summarize it by the Kiswahili proverb, ukiona vyaelea jua vimeundwa, si ndio? Yeah. So you are the substance, like we can say that you're the substance or the evidence of your parents.
Yes.
Like we've never met your parents, but then we believe they are because you are here.
Because I am. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So anyone needs something to like pick that apart? Yeah.
What if you can't think about, like, okay, what's the essence of thinking about your beginnings, in the sense that, okay, knowing what drives you? Is there something like what Cholo was saying? Is there something special that inspires someone to start thinking about their beginnings? Is it something you are born with, so to speak? Is it something you get to hear from people?
Yeah. And also to add on to that, why is it important to think about those beginnings? Yeah. Does it mean that when you don't think about those beginnings, you just live a purposeless existence? Like basically, I don't know. Yeah. Someone with anyone to.
Yeah. You've asked why is it important to think about those beginnings. I think from little children to a certain age, it reaches a certain age where you now start wanting to think for yourself, right? And usually the first thing you do is nitaanza wapi, right? I think that's where someone starts looking for the purpose of why they are here. You know, that's when someone begins to think for themselves. And once you begin thinking for yourself, the ball starts rolling from there, because from little children you're being guided. You know, this is how you sit, this is how you eat, this is how you even taught how to walk, you know. So it's actually quite important, because if someone doesn't have the chance to think about their own beginning of something, I mean, you'll feel completely useless. It's just like a paper being carried by the wind. You know, you'll have no purpose. But then at some point, when you start thinking about why you're here, that's when things begin.
I think to an extent, it's also something that's innate. Like, have you ever met someone who probably didn't grow up with their dad or their mom, but they'll always want to know who is my dad, who is my mom, you know? Yeah.
So I think just to like pick up from what Ochola is.
Just one last thing. Yeah. I also believe it's deep within our human nature to always want to feel that there's always this kind of empty space. You feel like I need to fill it, and how do I do this on my own? Where will I start? So I think it's in our human nature to actually think for ourselves and start doing things for ourselves.
I can say something small. From my perspective, beginning gives you identity. So when you begin a school, let's say a primary school or kindergarten or campus, it identifies you with that institution. So I began my schooling maybe some academy in the village, Bias. Right there in school. So you identify with that place because that's where you began. So beginning in essence gives us identity. Yes.
All right. How can you just as we are I think Paul and then as we are discussing about that on the identity, maybe we can come back to it just a bit later. But before we come to that, what if you don't even think about beginnings? Like Chala mentioned the wind. Like you see it working, but then you never really think about where it comes from. Or what if you choose to disregard the beginnings of something? And just before we answer that, so Paul can share. And then
mine is just an addition to what Otia's saying. A plant begins from the root, and a plant cannot stand without the root, So knowing our beginnings will help us to be able to stand in whatever sphere that we are in, be it work, be it school, be it wherever we are. So I believe knowing our beginnings is important in helping us to have our identity, which Oti spoke about. Then to try to answer your question, does knowing about the wind or ignoring it have any value or something of that sort?
the origins, like not caring about the origins or just
I believe
ignoring the origins.
that does not change the fact that there is an origin. Yes. Whether you know or not, there has to be an origin. So I think basically that's what I
Alright,
had.
just to pick it up from that, so you don't see the roots of that plant, or it's just too much work to think about, like that beginning. It's easier to just believe that that plant has no origins, you know, or I can't really, like the laws of nature, like the wind where it's coming from, or force of gravity, for example. I don't believe in it, so does that matter? Maybe you had something to say.
I think beginnings also give us that sense of direction. Like, see when you're doing something or when you start up something, and then you give up at some point. But then when you come to, after a while, you come to think about it, and you know, you unaangalia unaona like, I had a mission with this thing. So you by you going back, it brings back your main agenda, your main goal.
Very good.
Yes.
I think I'll stop you there because we'll come to that. I like that. I like that point. Let's proceed on something. You wanted to say something, David?
No. Because I want to add something to say, but it's okay.
No,
Jimmy?
Zebi has mentioned it. So.
All right. Very good. And please mark that point. Please keep it in my mind. Prompt me. Keep it for me. So the laws of nature.
To be beginning pia inaonyesha concept ya time, beginning to the end. So pia inaleta concept ya time. So there's a time started.
So sometimes it's an abstract idea of how time began. Maybe maybe how did time begin or everything just begin? Because that brings in the aspect of everything having a beginning, right? Yeah. So how
And
how would you tackle
having
that?
beginnings, like even if, let's say when you're in school and you start a topic or something, you would start probably definitions, define terms and everything.
So let's
the
go to the
beginning.
beginning.
Yeah.
All right.
Define the beginning.
All right.
And
And also if you can find some verses.
Some reference.
Yeah.
I think my main reference would be Genesis 1 verse 1, which says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." So that is the beginning that I believe in. That God created the heavens and the earth.
All right.
Beginning of
So that's the beginning of time for us on
Yeah,
earth, so
time
to
for us.
speak.
Time for us, yeah. I think we are governed by this aspect, abstract or not, called time, yeah? Because you can't, everything for us has to have a starting time, you know, and an ending time, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah? Because think about it, even the best of things, we do believe that they will come to an end, right? And it's an unwritten rule about our lives that whatever you start has to come to an end, right? So maybe we think back to how this all began, yeah, and maybe just as we are coming to a close for this first session, think about that beginning of everything, yeah. Anyone with something to
Does everything really have a beginning?
elaborate on that question?
Does God have a beginning?
Interesting.
Okay, that's a nice question, and
Yeah.
I like it because in a sense, I think that introduces another aspect of time. God is eternal. We experience time in the temporal. Temporal means someone was talking about. So we in Earth we have a start,
Yeah,
and an
and
end.
then for almost
So
everything.
our for lack of a better word, dimension is finite. It's temporal. It's beginning end. God is extra temporal. He lives outside the confines us guys have. So that it brings an interesting thing as well, because if he is the one who set time, the way we understand time, so what governs him? I think it's just for a point of curiosity, really. So
yeah.
I think also to also put it in our perspective in
Yeah.
terms of time, we can say that God is eternal, eternity past and present. Since we're dealing with time, what we can comprehend in terms of time, eternity past and present. We cannot really put a beginning to it or an end to it.
Yeah.
It's ever continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tobis asks, because we are saying everything has to have a beginning, does God have a beginning, you know, or what is that beginning? Because and let's point that to John 1:1. Yeah. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So what answer can we pick apart from that?
To just add, I think to add on that verse for John 1:1,
Yeah.
you can go to Colossians 1:16. I think
Yeah.
David can read it.
Yeah, sure.
Colossians 1:16. It gives you a better perspective of the nitty-gritty of the beginning.
Yeah.
Of who brought these things into being. Just explains more.
Yeah.
I think
So-
David can read for us.
Yeah.
Colossians 1:16, yeah. For by him are all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him.
Yeah.
17.
And he is before all things, and by him all things consist.
All right. So in short, what we're saying is, God might have a beginning, but then the beginning is He Himself.
So he is the beginning.
He is
of
the beginning. Yeah. And just to further that analogy, if you are living, if you create a car or a vehicle, then it means you existed before that vehicle was, right?
Yes.
So He created all things seen or unseen.
Unseen.
So time also falls in that category. So He created time he existed before time.
So-
Abstract.
So just something to think about
Yeah.
in this concept of beginning. I want us to think about time in terms of temporal time, in terms of a line.
Yeah.
Mathematics teaches us a line has a starting point
Yeah.
and an end. But eternal time,
Yeah.
where God exists, is like a circle. That's how I'd explain it.
Yeah.
So a circle has a beginning and an end, but it's not definite.
Yeah.
You get. So that's how I understand God's beginning. It's not definable in our terms. Even the word beginning is a finite term.
True.
The circle, for me, I think represents the whole idea of how God works, or God's beginnings and ends, so to speak.
So right.
Now,
All
so
right.
na God akijaribu kuleta maneno ya time, what is he trying to teach us? Because if God is infinite and timeless, why did he create time and finite? Come on, if there's a word like that, things that are not infinite.
Ending.
What is he trying to show?
I think I'd just like to chip in and say, initially when God created, we were not supposed to die. You know, that was not the plan.
Yeah.
The plan was not to have things that die. Even the first time when
Things that
Adam
end,
and Eve,
that's what you mean, yeah?
yeah, and
Things
things
were
that
not
end.
to
You know,
end.
even when Adam and Eve saw those, like say, when the lamb was slain, they're like, what? This is
slain
abnormal.
and killed,
Yeah, like why is this thing dying? It's not supposed to die.
Yeah.
Because God is life.
Yeah.
You know, there's no death in God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So just to break down or try to summarize that whole discussion, we began with we understand that things began, although we didn't see them, by things that we can now see. Yeah. Right. So, and that is what the Bible describes as faith.
Yeah.
Believing in something that you have not seen, but you see the evidences, then you say, I can tell this exists just because I see this, right? And then we tried to explain that nature shows us some of these things that we may not actually see, but then we understand beginnings of everything from the things that we actually see. Yeah. So even if you try to ignore, then it eventually directs you back to the beginning, and we try to break down this beginning that, hey, God is the beginning from the evidences that we have been given. He created everything that we saw, or that we see and that we don't see. Therefore, He is the beginning. And so those are the lessons that we are trying to pick apart and try to understand. Oh, so these are the beginnings of everything. Yeah. So basically, that's just a very high level summary of that first part. Before we go to before we go to the first break, Chala, no, we'll do Fred, and then Chala will close us up.
Yeah, mine is very brief,
Yeah.
just to respond to the question that my brother Toby asked. He asked, why did God then create time?
Yeah.
I think it's a very simple concept of Him putting us in our place, to understand that there is a creator
Yeah.
and we were created by Him.
Yeah.
Sometime in history, there are guys who tried to break away from we're built in with a 7-day cycle,
Yeah.
whether we like it or not. So the guys who tried to break away from that
7 days.
that cycle of,
Yes.
of operating, and it is reported, though now we have to go
Back to history.
research a little bit more, but this guy was saying it was reported that there were a lot of guys going crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, so in essence, I think time is just there to remind us that there's a higher power,
Yeah.
which is God, and
Alright.
He created us.
Just something, just a little, please, just to add on that. Sorry, there's I like to think of time as an expression of God. Our time, finite time. Think of it like this: when we create something, when us guys create art, Eddie's a very good artist. There are very good musicians here. When you create something, you have an intention. The intention is, for a creator, primarily is to express a dimension, an aspect of him. So by God creating time and in extension creating us, He is showing an expression, a dimension of who He is to us or to other people who are watching, so to speak.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chala.
Just two things. You say that time is an expression of who He is. You know, God is infinite, right, literally. So if someone tells you your time is finished, does time stop there?
No.
Continue, right?
Mm.
There's a beginning for it. So it's in the same sense that God is trying to show us that He is still there, but we can't prove Him, because you can't prove when was the first second, where was the first ever second. When did it begin? Because God, I believe God Himself is just like time, because He said in verse 17 of Colossians,
And He is before all things.
All things, yeah.
1:17.
Yeah.
He is before all things, right? And He is before all things, and then Revelation 22:12 says, no, 22:13, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. To me, that brings two concepts of God. One is we will never be able to understand where He began from. That's just the way He created us, for us to understand Him. And two, everything that we see and that we believe in, they all began from Him. You get it?
All right.
Yeah, so when the question you asked, that does God have a beginning, you'll never be able to prove it in your own human mind. You'll just have to trust in Him that at the end of it all, once you've served your purpose on this earth according to His will, then you'll have a chance to ask Him.
All right. So you've brought in the aspect of faith, and I think that's why we'll pick up as soon as Humble give us an item. What are the beginnings of our faith, or can you really point back? Because now we can bring it down to our own personal experiences. Where does this faith begin? Yeah. Where did I believe that higher? So the beginnings are God. So let's personalize it. Yeah. In the next section. So Humble will give us an item, and then we'll go into the second part.
To an aged man, God's spoke, was that sounded like a joke. Soon his wife would bear a child, saying hard to and your dreams and your plans begin with God. Your life begins with God. Begins with God. Your love begins with God. Begins with God. Your hopes and your dreams and your plans begin with God. I was standing on the edge of the world, standing on the edge of the world, hopelessly alone in the dark, hopelessly alone in the beginning all was empty and void. In my mind, my soul, my heart of hearts, the Creator gave me in my life. He manifested my life. Day by day, rearranging my ways. He's my Lord, my God, my King. To a leper on his face, to a woman's dark disgrace, to a prisoner's empty night, to a blind man's quest for sight, to a mother's boy lying dead, to a beggar's plea for bread, to a layman's crippled bones, to a stranger's journey home. Your life begins with God. Begins with God. Your love begins with God. Begins with God. Your hopes and your dreams and your plans begin with plans. Your life begins with God. Begins with God. Your love begins with God. Begins with God. Your hope and your